his
Security Defense Council Information Center spokesman with the latest update from ATO Zone. Proszę pan Andriy.
Доброго дня, шановні колеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. On the eve of extraordinary parliamentary elections that will happen on the 26th of October, the law enforcers, special services, national guards, and armed forces of Ukraine are put to the enhanced regime of service. On the liberated territories of Donbass, the anti-terrorist operation forces will pay reinforced attention to counter-terrorist measures and also to provide security and safety on polling stations during voting and counting of the votes. The President of Ukraine said that security on polling stations has to be provided not by voluntary battalions but by detachments of police. In the front zone, they will be helped by units of National Guards and special units of the armed forces of Ukraine. He issued respective orders to heads of law enforcement and armed units. We address the mass media representatives. We have established that on Saturday and Sunday we expect the leak of a great number of false news aimed at intimidating people and at hindering the elections. The Information and Analytical Center of the Council for National Security and Defense on the 26th of October will work round the clock. We will inform on the security situation through briefings and our pages in social networks. The same, the press services and information centers of the armed forces and other law enforcement departments will work. Please check the facts and address us for official comments. During his working visit to Odessa, the President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, said that Ukraine is modernizing the Ukrainian Navy and will equip it with modern arms. And the allocations for this are suggested in the budget for 2015. He also introduced the new head of the State Border Guards, who is Lieutenant General Viktor Nazarenko. The President issued the task to the new head of the State Border Guards to provide for the realization of measures on the security of Ukrainian borders and to reinforce the fight against corruption in border guards ranks. The last day in anti-terrorist operation was relatively calm. There was the decrease in the number and intensity of shellings of the ATO positions. Yesterday, not a single shelling from missile batteries was detected. However, today at 8:25 and 8:30 a.m., the terrorists have twice shelled from Grad batteries the control tower of Donetsk airport. No servicemen of Ukraine were killed last day, but 8 of them were wounded. Yesterday, Ukrainian military have repelled 2 attempts to storm our positions in the vicinity of Berezovka and Krasnohorivka, Donetsk region, and the assaults were carried out after artillery and mortar shellings. In the south, the terrorists have twice used heavy armaments not far from Novolaspa and Pavlopol. In the north of the anti-terrorist operation zone, we have detected 4 facts of the violation of the airspace of Ukraine and air reconnaissance with drones next to Mistki, Starobilsk and Ryhova. The armed forces of Russian Federation continue to conduct air reconnaissance from their territory with the help of Mi-8 helicopters, and we have detected air reconnaissance flights in the vicinity of Girsk, Vorobyivka, and Sementsivka of Chernihiv region. Yesterday, a helicopter of the Russian armed forces has conducted air reconnaissance flights along the Ukrainian-Russian border next to Sumy. The Ukrainian law enforcers continue to increase the battle capacity of units. Yesterday there was a bilateral working meeting between the commanders of the National Guards of Ukraine and representatives of the enterprises of the defense complex of Canada. The last day, the village of Krymsky Novoydar district was liberated from the Cossacks of the so-called Voisko Donske, the Don troop. After the liberation of the village, it turned out that the terrorists have severely treated local residents who supported Ukraine, and two men, a father and a son, were tortured in a cellar, and a 43-year-old councillor of the local village council, Gennady Chytrenko, was shot to death in the yard of his house for his pro-Ukrainian position. The leaders of the terrorist organization DNR announced the ban to perform Ukrainian anthem in schools, and they promised to punish people for doing this. The timely start of the heating season is under threat on the territories controlled by the terrorists, and the most critical is the situation in the territory controlled by the LNR. The terrorists were planning to provide gas from Russian Federation. However, the local gas distributing infrastructure in many localities is ruined by their shelling and also partly dismantled and taken away to Russia as scrap metal. Over 24 hours from the zone of anti-terrorist operation to other regions of Ukraine, 2,091 persons were resettled, including 388 people, children, and 670 disabled and senior citizens. In general, 382,255 people were resettled. The psychologists of the State Service for Emergency Situations continue to provide psychological help and assistance to people who are replaced from the temporarily occupied territory. Over the last 24 hours, such assistance was given to 441 people, including 123 children and 42 disabled and senior citizens. And over the entire period, the psychological help was provided to almost 89,000 people. Over the last 24 hours, the pyrotechnical units of the State Emergency Service have detected and defused 263 units of munitions, including 60 artillery shells, 24 mortar mines, 9 grenades, 13 missile jet-propelled munitions, and the 9.2 hectares of territory was checked. Starting from the 6th of July 2014, 25,105 units of munitions were diffused. Yesterday to Dnipropetrovsk, humanitarian help from the government of Germany was delivered to Dnipropetrovsk. 5 lorries arrived, and this is just the first batch of the help to this region. The lorries are already on the depots for being unloaded, and the humanitarian convoy brought first necessity goods and also some furniture and mattresses, white goods like refrigerators and washing machines, and representatives of the German Organization of International Cooperation came to Dnipropetrovsk to control and accept this load. In general, Dnipropetrovsk will receive 10 lorries of humanitarian help from the government of Germany with an aggregate load of almost 200 tons. Earlier, such humanitarian help from Germany was already delivered to Kharkiv, 16 lorries, and Zaporizhia, 8 lorries. In Dobropilya and Krasnoarmeysk districts, the water supply has been restored. The Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, said that she doesn't see necessity to cancel the sanctions by EU against Russia. She emphasized that the EU came to a conclusion that Minsk agreements have not been fulfilled by Russia. This is why we do not see an opportunity to talk about the cancellation of sanctions, the Chancellor said. The officials spokesperson for the State Department of the USA, Jen Psaki, said that USA is highly assessing the efforts of the Ukrainian government to provide for free and just elections on the 26th of October and condemn any attempts of outside forces to hamper the democratic process of expressing people's will. She said that the U.S. will recognize as legitimate the parliamentary elections on the 26th of October and also the voting on local elections on the 7th of December. No other electoral process will be recognized. Today, the work of the parliamentary Europarlament, 14 MEPs will start their observation mission in Ukraine.
I have two questions. First, one of the servicemen from Checkpoint 32 called to our TV channel, and he said that yesterday they were encircled. It would be not true to say that at all checkpoints, including Checkpoint 32, everything is quiet and there's no threat for our servicemen. It's difficult there. We know about the movement of equipment and the units of the bands around that checkpoint. We cannot say that this checkpoint is encircled because this is not true. All the servicemen have everything, the ammunition, the weapons, the water, the food products, the medicines. Besides, they have the support at the distance, from the distance. If there's heavy equipment approaching them, this will be eliminated from the distance. And we can tell you that in case there is an offense, a powerful offense on this checkpoint, this offense will be repelled, and Ukrainian servicemen will not withdraw from the positions that they're holding. More than that, I can add that recently we have sent also the reinforced troops there, and they will feel it. Another question. On Donetsk forums, the people write that the militants closed the road that leads to the airport. There's information that at Kievsky Avenue, there is some heavy armored vehicles. There are some heavy armored vehicles. And also, they observe this relocation of their units. We do not know what's the final objective of that, but our intelligence and reconnaissance units, they know all that information and they're getting ready to any events. I'm sorry, but back to the question about Brigade 32, because 10 minutes ago, one of the guys said that they have no water, no food, no warm clothes. And again, the National Security and Defense Council gives us one information, but in reality it's different. It's either there is something wrong in your information. Maybe they are saying the truth. But thank you for the question again. That proves that organization of the defense of the checkpoints is done by the commanders, and all the personnel is subordinate to them, and they're responsible for the life of their personnel and for holding that checkpoint. If you want to get information directly from the checkpoint, ask this warrior to come to the commander and let the commander tell you what is there in reality. The serviceman, regular serviceman, doesn't have the information that the commander has. The commander has more information. Are you sure that that is the person who is at this checkpoint? Or maybe they are calling you from the security service building from Donetsk, where there is the headquarters of the separatists. Please check it. Could you please tell also, maybe you mentioned it and I missed, where are where's the warfare going on now? Where are the hot points? Today in the morning there was an attack at Donetsk airport. There were shellings here in this area and near Makiyivka, Avdiivka. Okay. But there were no powerful during the night and in the evening. In the morning, there were 2 attacks at Donetsk airport. Once you have no more questions, thank you. The next press briefing of the Security and Defense Council is tomorrow at 12:30. And our next press briefing, Maidan Destinies, in 1 minute. We'll be talking about the Maidan Destinies with Anna Zaitchkivska.